Work-life balance is the biggest lie high performers tell themselves to feel okay about burnout. It's the story we use to justify exhaustion. If I could just get balanced, everything will finally feel right. But that's not leadership. That's survival. Balance, it sounds nice on paper, but the moment your business starts growing, it breaks under its own weight. You can't build something extraordinary while you're trying to keep everything equal. You have to establish a rhythm. In this episode, I'm going to show you why balance doesn't work and what the best founders build instead. Rhythm that sustains their energy, scales their companies, and actually gives them their freedom back. By the end, you're going to know how to design a rhythm that fits you, your team, and the season you're in, instead of living by someone else's idea of balance. I'm Scott Joseph, the founder of Me Plus Ultra and your host of Business Bourbon and Cigars. I've sat with hundreds of founders who thought the answer was balance, only to find themselves, stuck working harder, grinding harder than ever, resenting the very thing that they built. And I've watched what happens when they stop chasing equilibrium and start creating a rhythm. Their businesses grow faster, their teams stabilize, their lives finally breathe again. I once worked with a founder who looked like the picture of success. On paper, everything looked perfect. Big business, beautiful family, he was in great shape. If you glanced at his calendar, you'd think he had cracked the code. Every hour was perfectly color-coded, blue for business, yellow for family, green for workouts, gray for me time. He'd say, "Scott, I finally found balance." Problem was he hadn't. He'd call me from the office at 10 at night, 11 at night, whispering so his wife couldn't hear. I don't get it. I'm doing everything right, and I'm still fried. Here's what was really happening. He wasn't balanced. He was fragmented. Every win in one area felt like a loss in another. Does that sound familiar? He'd crush a deal at work. Then he'd feel guilty for missing dinner. He'd take a weekend off so he could spend more time with his kids. Then he'd stress about the work he wasn't getting done or had to be done. He was measuring his life in equal slices of time instead of quality of energy. And that's what balance does. It tricks you into thinking equality equals peace. One day, I'll never forget this. We met up for lunch and I said, "Stop trying to balance everything. You need to get into a rhythm, design a rhythm." He looked at me like he had no idea what I was talking about, so I explained it. Balance assumes everything gets the same weight at the same time. But leadership doesn't work that way. Energy moves in seasons. Sometimes you're sprinting, sometimes you stabilize, sometimes you got to pause. He didn't need a time management strategy. He needed the right rhythm. So I showed him what that might look like. 1 quarter for expansion, 1 for optimization, 1 for reflection. His business had rhythm again. Pressure, release, momentum, pause. And then he mirrored that at home too. He had family rhythm, right? Recovery rhythm. He didn't have these perfect days, but predictable seasons. And then 6 months later, he tells me, my company's scaling, but it finally feels light again. I feel quick, faster. My family's happier. I'm actually enjoying this success instead of surviving it. That's rhythm. It's when you finally stop balancing your life and you start leading it. And really, that's the truth that most leaders miss. Balance breaks under scale. Rhythm thrives on it. Leaders have this natural instinct to want to control everything. And I've talked about this in our last episode. When most founders say balance, what they really mean is control. They're trying to make every area of life move at the same speed. Business, family, health, personal growth, personal development. Like a 4-way tie, they can manage it if they just schedule a little bit tighter or smarter. And that's not balance. That's denial. The reality is leadership is irregular. You're constantly shifting weight, adjusting energy, moving your focus. The goal isn't to divide energy equally. It's to be deliberate on how you direct it. Rhythm is how elite leaders do that, right? It's the system that replaces balance once you outgrow the startup hustle and start building a real enterprise. Right now, you're juggling every decision, putting out fires, and trying to grow your business on your own. Every day feels like a grind, and no matter how hard you push, the breakthrough you've been chasing seems like it's just out of reach. You don't have the right perspective, or maybe the network to see the opportunities waiting for you. The Business Bourbon and Cigars Leadership Retreat is your chance to change that. Imagine being in a room with entrepreneurs who have already overcome the challenges you're facing, leaders who have scaled, innovated, and found the clarity you're searching for. for. Through our mastermind style sessions, you're going to gain actionable strategies and the opportunity to connect with active Me Plus Ultra members. These aren't just networking contacts. They are entrepreneurs who think strategically, spot opportunity quickly, and can provide insights that accelerate your growth. This experience allows you to see firsthand how high-level leaders solve problems, create momentum, and unlock opportunities. So you can leave the retreat not just with a plan, but with a network that expands your possibilities faster than you ever thought possible. The first 5 people to apply at meplusultra.com/BBC50 is going to receive 50% off their ticket. Don't wait. Secure your spot now and step into a space where real business breakthroughs happen. Inside Me Plus Ultra, I've seen this happen over and over. Take one of our members. Fake name, we'll call her Lisa. Her company doubles 2 years in a row. On the surface, that's incredible, right? We all want that. Behind the scenes, it was chaos. She was always in launch mode. No pause, no reset, no rhythm. In her hot seat, she goes, I can't keep sprinting forever. So we rebuilt her year around rhythm. Q1 was all about innovation. Q2 focused on execution. Q3, team development. And then the fourth quarter, we reset and reflect. It wasn't balance, it was flow. And our company didn't slow down. It actually sped up. Because rhythm, it's not about doing less. It's about aligning energy with purpose. And she told me later, she goes, I stopped feeling guilty for resting or for when I took vacations. It's part of the system now. And that's the point. Rest isn't a reward for exhaustion. It's an infrastructure. If you don't build recovery into your system, burnout becomes the system. And once that happens, your best people start checking out. Mentally first, physically next. And that's exactly what happened to another member. His team was drowning in what he called growth fatigue. Everything looked good on paper, but no one had any bandwidth left. Following his virtual hot seat, he started doing 90-day sprints, followed by short resets. And now he's doing weekly check-ins, focused on cadence, not crisis. And within 6 months, his productivity went up while his meetings went down. We'd all love that. His company stopped sprinting in panic and started moving in rhythm. And that's what the best leaders figure out. They don't build faster companies. They build smarter cadences. Rhythm, it gives clarity where chaos used to live. It turns pressure into momentum and motion into progress. That's a huge difference between grinding and growing. When you build rhythm into your leadership, in your business, your family, your personal life, everything starts to breathe again. So here's a challenge. I want to leave you with this. Don't audit your calendar. Audit your rhythm. I want you to ask yourself, where am I forcing pace instead of following it? Which part of my business is without rest? Where have I blurred the line between progress and exhaustion? Because balance is static. Rhythm is dynamic. Balance, it divides your energy while rhythm directs it. You can't scale a business, and more importantly, your life, when you're trying to stay perfectly balanced, but you can scale one that's built on rhythm. And if you want to see what rhythm looks like in practice, I want you to download the free Business Bourbon and Cigars Mastermind Workbook. You can do it at meplusultra.com/workbook. It's the same framework we use inside Me Plus Ultra to help founders design cadence into their growth. Pressure, release, momentum, pause. So their companies scale without their lives shrinking. It's going to teach you how to prioritize, plan better. Because the truth is simple. Leaders who chase balance, they burn out. Leaders who build rhythm last. And that rhythm, that's where freedom lives. Cheers, everyone.